So the government acknowledges that there is a serious problem sending students to high school who are not capable, not ready of doing themselves justice at the grade level of entry, that's grade 7. And so they say they have crafted a new policy to fix that by, at the primary level, holding those students back and putting remedial classes in place for them to get them to perform at their grade level, so that when they go to grade 7, rather than trying to fix things that should have been fixed at grade 3, they can proceed from grade 7 and give their new teachers the best chance of helping them to self-actualize. That's in a nutshell what the government is proposing to do. And we're speaking to 2 educators today to ask them if this is a sensible approach ahead of the new school year. It's Lead Story, Friday edition, CVM TV. Let's start the show. Welcome to Lead Story on this Friday. So the government is taking a serious step to end decades of ridiculousness where students who are not capable of coping at the first form level in secondary schools are just sent there as if they're on a production line and they're just moving from one point to the next. When they go to grade 7, teachers there have to be spending time to fix the deficiencies in numeracy and literacy. And so time is wasted, precious time is wasted, because they can't progress normally through the secondary school system. And what you end up with is perhaps a student leaving school at grade 11 who can't read or write properly. So the government says it's time to end that, and they've crafted this policy which they believe will cure that age-old problem. Before I get into it with my guests, in case you have been under the proverbial rock, you haven't been aware of what has happened where this policy is concerned, we and our producers were kind enough to prepare this for you.
5% of its GDP on education. That's above the global average of 4.4%. Yet, many schools remain under-resourced. That's according to President of the Jamaica Association of Principals of Secondary Schools, JAPS, Linvern Wright. Mr. Wright was responding to the recent announcement by the Education Ministry that students entering high school on Pathway 3, meaning students who struggle with core subjects or have special needs, will only do 6 subjects at the grade 7 level.
Our education system operates of a high level of prejudice and taboo. And when we have children who we have to reduce subjects for them, and I'm not saying we shouldn't do it because we're going to have taboo, but the fact is that these are things that if you don't manage the process properly, it can be problematic.
He's questioning why attention isn't being given to what he believes is the key issue.
What has not supported that idea is resources. What we need are teachers. Because if you're going to have more time with students in mathematics, you're going to need more teachers. We have a shortage of mathematics teachers. And what the ministry has not said is how we're going to augment the number that we have to support this new thrust. So it is something that I think has to move beyond the announcement and move to ensuring that we support the schools with more teachers. Every single school, you need at least 1 or 2 more teachers to have this kind of initiative working the way the ministry wants it.
But there are other concerns.
Most of these children coming to schools who can't learn are poor children who have been deprived early in their lives, have had poor early childhood education, poor primary education. What we really want to ensure that we do is that we understand the gaps that they have had socially, not just academically.
While Jamaica's per capita education spending is at a relatively acceptable level globally, Mr. Wright believes the expenditure per capita on each student is shameful.
We are in the lower band of students funding students' education per capita in the world. Barbados is in the mid-range. We are spending about 1,200 US per child per annum. Barbados is spending over close to 2,000, almost twice what Jamaica spends. their literacy levels are at 90, about 99%. Jamaica is at about 81%. 81% is just about where it's unacceptable in the world. People don't understand that. So 81% sounds like 80, but it's not 80 like you get 18 mathematics in school. It's 81% of your population that's reading. That 21% can really be a struggle.
Amoy Harriet, CVM News.
Linvern right there, the man in charge at William Knibb Memorial High School in Trelawney. After the break, I'll get the perspective of a high school principal and a primary school principal.
Millions of people are attacked by harmful mouth bacteria. The root cause of bad breath, gum problems, cavities, plaque, and tartar. That's why Colgate combined the best science and technology in Colgate Total. Unlike others, its superior formula fights bacteria and creates a powerful protective barrier for up to 24 hours to prevent them from coming back. Take control of your oral health with Colgate Total.
Welcome to our place, where your imagination can blossom into something amazing.
Where you can get tertiary level education at a practical level.
Where you can be as creative as you dare.
Harnessing cutting-edge technology.
To create world-class entrepreneurs and critical thinkers.
Where even lecturers gain benefits from our experience.
Your place is the Vocational Training Development Institute, where tertiary level education and training is empowering and transforming lives.
You belong here.
Back with us here on Lead Stories. Let's get right into it. As you heard in that setup piece at the top, the fact is that students at grade 7 who are struggling, they'll not be exposed to the full suite of courses at entry level into high school. Rather than doing the 10 or more subjects that's mandatory for first form students, they'll be reduced to 6 until they can catch up. And the catch up mark is not a function of what the other students are getting in the core courses that they're doing, but there'll be a standard worked out by the ministry for them to attain before they can matriculate further in the system. So as I said, we have asked and been lucky enough to be blessed with the presence of one principal from the primary school system. That's Richard Williams. He is the principal at Gregory Park Primary, and Christopher Wright is the man in charge at Charlie Smith High School. Good evening, gentlemen.
Evening, sir.
Good evening, Andre. How are you?
That's good. Andre is not this good looking. He's my producer, and he's in the back. This is George.
Greetings, sir. How are you?
I'm very good, man. I'm just pulling in. But I really am serious that Andre is not this good looking. Anyway, thank you for your time, and I'm coming to you very, very shortly, Principal Wright. Principal Williams, I have you here, Gregory Park Primary. You have looked at this policy, I am sure, and you have looked at the problems it exists to solve. Do you think this is a movement in the right direction, or as some are saying, it's inadequate, the measure that the government has put in place?
All right, it is a start, and it is a good start, because I remember when I joined Gregory Park Primary, and when I looked at the grade 6 students, their reading levels at grade 6, and when I checked their reading level at grade 1, children were coming to grade 6. They entered the school at pre-prima or prima, and at grade 6 they were still at prima or pre-prima.
So no progress?
No progress. So I did an intervention where I asked all the teachers to do reading, the IDRI, the government IDRI, to see what was the reading level of the entire school. When we did that, we had at least 250 something students in grades 1 to 3, 188 students between grades 1 to 3 were reading below grade 1.
That's a disproportionate number.
Yes, so I just decided we'd have to write a proposal to Digicel, and that's how we ended up getting an enrichment center to support reading and literacy.
And what has that done for the overall picture in the school?
Well, we moved to 77% in literacy, and we kept building and improving, and we are, even since recently, we did another intervention, because after COVID, we found that the children came back at those 2 years. it was treacherous.
Yeah, displacement, learning loss, huge.
So when we looked at grade 4, and it was so surprising to see that the ministry was coming up with this, because we thought at grade 4, in the first term, the teachers were a little antsy. They said the children weren't showing. When we did the intervention, we did the assessment and got the students assessed and everything. When I read the report, George, it was like the children were functionally illiterate. So we had to do 1 term of reading intervention. We used 2 days just to do phonics, comprehension, reading, penmanship, writing, and vocabulary.
How did you manage your teaching resources to account for the increased focus on numeracy, on literacy?
Well, what really happened was that the grade 4 teachers, we just did it right across. So all 3 teachers, because we have 3 grade 4 classes, so all 3 teachers would work the numeracy and the literacy, but on the days that we had literacy, all 3 would, there's a set teaching learning activity that we did, the 5 different sessions throughout the day, and we just maintained that.
Principal,
the results moved from 37%
yes,
to 83% at
brilliant.
the end of the team.
Principal Wright, your school is in the unfortunate position of being unfairly branded a certain kind of way. The Campions and Immaculates of this world get the children who are reading way above high school, least of all grade 7, and they progress well through the system. Your school gets those who are struggling, and then you and your teacher are expected to wave a magic wand and turn them into the brightest scholars ever. This move by the ministry to put in this implementation, this intervention policy, how do you view it?
Well, George, as Richard earlier said, it's a start, and I think to continue, moving children from grade to grade without them being able to master their grade level is a dangerous practice, and we would have seen the result of that over time. So I believe that it is a good move, but there are some questions and there are some serious questions that we would like to ask and to see if these things are put in place to ensure that such an initiative will have the long-term effect that we would want to see as educators.
Well, share some of those questions that you have. My viewers are keen to understand.
I mean, if you're holding back children, I mean, it's either grade retention or mastery learning. I think the idea is more mastery learning to ensure that they master the curriculum at the grade level, and I'm in support of that. However, there are so many different variables why children are not functioning at their grade level, and the list goes on. One of them that we have found at school is undiagnosed special needs of children, and that seemed to be a serious factor or a challenge rather, why children are not functioning at their grade level. There are also lack of the proper parental support. Children don't attend school consistently, have nutrition. There's one that a lot of us as school principal dance around, and is teacher capacity. The ability of teachers to really teach students who are struggling, and how much resources we provide for these teachers, and what kind of training teachers undergo to ensure that the students that come to us and the various challenges that they have, we are able to meet those and meet them in a way that will impact the learning. So while I'm in agreement and I welcome the idea or the policy, those are my concern. There's also how children will feel when they are held back. I know that sometimes we say, listen, we have to just hold them back regardless of what is happening, but we have to think about their emotional needs as well. And children, especially boys, their self-esteem is significantly impacted by that when they think that they are not achieving, and that helps them. And that is also a cause why they don't want to participate in these interventions. So they stay away from school. They are very disruptive. So some of those questions I would like to know how those variables will be addressed.
Hear you on that.
The move will actually yield the kind of results that we are looking for.
Hear you on that. Hold it right there. We're going to take a break and come right back. This is Lead Story, canvassing the views of principals, secondary primary school, reacting to the government's policy of retaining students at the grade level until they master reading, numeracy and literacy at that level before they can hope to move on through the school system. More on Lead Story after these.
Jamaica is paving the way to becoming a republic, or future or choice. The time by the Ministry of Legal and Constitutional Affairs is
6:45. Living in a systematic adjudication area, it's time to secure what's yours. The National Land Agency is distributing titles under its systematic land registration program. Persons in St. Elizabeth and Manchester, visit the Junction Guest House in St. Elizabeth to collect your title. In St. Catherine, we're coming to you house to house. To collect your title, bring your government-issued photo ID. If someone is collecting on your behalf, they should bring a JP certified letter and their government-issued photo ID. For more information, call 876-750-5263 or visit nla.gov.jm. One agency, one goal, committed to serve you better.
Government has a new policy which will take effect from September, the start of the 25-26 academic year, which will see students who are not up to par at their grade level, where numeracy and literacy is concerned, being retained at that level until they can matriculate to the next level, hitting numeracy and literacy standards that the government hopes will prevent the situation where we have several students, well, hundreds of students each year graduating, leaving fifth form, grade 11 in high schools, not being able to read, not being able to do themselves justice, where further training, education, and even employment is concerned. I have with me Richard Williams, principal of Gregory Park Primary School, that's in Portmore, St. Catherine, and in Kingston is the man leading Charlie Smith High, Christopher Wright. Richard, I noticed that you perhaps have a different view where the issue of self-esteem is concerned, because Principal Wright's view is not unpopular, because many people are saying, you know, holding students back, that will damage the self-esteem, that may cause rebelliousness. So it is a serious cause for concern where this holding back, retaining at the grade level is concerned. You have a different view?
I share a different view because at Gregory Park Primary, I can use my school as an example. First of all, when the children come into school in grade 1, there is a grade 1 individual learning profile assessment that's done. You say to parents at orientation that maybe some children will not be as proficient because you have proficient, developing, beginning, and not yet.
Yes.
When the children are rated, assessed as not yet, we know that that's a red flag at the beginning. So we do 1 year of teaching and learning, and at the end we would do the IDRI assessment again, or we can re-administer the GGLP to see where the students are. And then if it is that they're reading below pre-primer, we then engage the ministry through their special education unit to do the psychoeducational assessment of these students. Now, I remember too a situation where 2 students were kept in basic school until one was 8, the girl was 8 and the boy was 9. And when they came to our school, they had to start in grade 1 and 2.
At 8 and 9 years old?
Yes. And all I did, kept them there at grade 1 and 2 and allowed them to do the grade 3 diagnostic test in that same year, but they were at grade 1 and 2. Because they were not ready to go to grade 3 or 4. Would you believe that that boy went from grade 2 straight to grade 4, I think, the next year, then he went to grade 5, and by the time he was in grade 5, he had to move to grade 6. Did his GSAT, went on to high school, he became the deputy head boy, and he came back to look for me and said that he had 8 CXC subjects. And
success story.
Yeah, and I was saying, once you have a school environment where the parents are involved and they know that if children are not operating at the level, there is a possibility that they can be referred out for assessment, and if they are not performing at the level, they can repeat.
Yeah.
We used to repeat, and the ministry said that we shouldn't. We should have stopped. So what I did, all the children who were not reading at the level at grade 1, I would still move them to grade 2, but they would stay with one teacher, and then we continue. We use our grade 2 as an intervention year. And sometimes children have the age to repeat, so it wouldn't affect their self-esteem. And if you have a school that you provide an enabling environment for all students. So when they come, they know that it's learning and fun, and it doesn't matter if they're 7 or 8 and they should be in grade 6, but they're in a lower class, they perform.
Principal Wright, I hear strands of agreement, even though the Principal Williams set out a different case, but it goes back to what you're saying about parental support, because that's where that is vital in such a situations. And you would agree that getting a child to repeat in primary school is perhaps different from getting a high schooler who's different, who's going through different emotional changes, to do the same and be as happy as a primary school student would be.
Right. So Richard would have answered one of the questions or one of the concerns that I had, and he skillfully said that, you know, if you have an enabling environment, and clear channels of communications are are established. You know, parents know, children know, teachers know, everybody know exactly what is happening. Then I think that will also help to facilitate that process. But if there's the absence of all of that, which Richard spoke about, then we could have a challenge. Parental support is probably one of the most important factor in this mastery learning at the grade level.
Yes.
I think many interventions would have been put in place by government and private sector and schools and different educational leaders. And I think most times we leave that most important variable of parental support, and I think nothing will happen unless we find a way to hold parents accountable for the children that they send to us at school.
Yeah.
Because they're a vital part of this equation, and I think they don't take enough responsibility. And most times these programs, we hear about the success story, what Richard would have spoke about, and many of us principals can highlight one or two success story, but we want a broader brush to paint all of these children to ensure that a large amount of students.
How much, gentlemen? How much how much of a factor is an inadequate medical assessment of a child going into a new school year? Because I'm thinking of those children who may have hearing difficulties, vision difficulties, and other difficulties that prevent them from going on. So it's not that they're intrinsically behind everybody else, but you have difficulty hearing, you have difficulty seeing. And I wonder how much of them go through some medicals where the doctor is just trying to hurry up to get to the next child. And those things are not spotted, and those things cause a retardation in the development and progress of the child. I want to hear both of you. Let me hear you first, Principal Wright.
Well, George, the fact is many of our students are unable to afford medicals. While it is mandatory, it's difficult for us to turn away students who fail to carry out a medical. But I know that many children suffer academically because of lack of undiagnosed challenges that they would have. And you mentioned two of them that is very critical, hearing and seeing. Those are two senses that's important to numeracy and literacy. And if those are undiagnosed and they are sitting there and the teachers are unable to identify that they are having hearing and visual problems, they just continue through the grades until they leave in fifth form, and we don't find out until probably a couple years after. We'll probably see them wearing glasses.
Yeah.
And I think that's as I said earlier, there are so many variables that could challenge this policy. And all of those things must be trashed out in a wholesome way. So that we can plug those gaps to ensure that this move will be successful.
Let me hear you on this issue.
And how I look at it too, because our country has a child health and development passport that it expands on the immunization card. So when children are coming up through the health system, the doctors should be doing that at the clinic. So the eye testing and the ear testing, that's how you know the children at age 4 would be on the autism spectrum. So if we are doing those checks early, we could pick up a child having a vision problem or a hearing problem. And then when it comes to medical now, in the primary school, a lot of parents who can't afford it would not get it. But the school again would have to say, partner with community businesses and stuff in order to do health fairs. So you get doctors on board so that they can do that kind of a testing to support the school itself, so that the children or the parents who are unable to afford can benefit from that. So you'd have to have a lot of those. But we have to move to the place where all children are able to get their eyes and ears tested so that we know. Because in the classroom, you know, George, when you see children coming up to the board, you know there's the squinting. And then I remember I had a class recently, it was a Saturday class, and I was just asking them to say, I think I prepared a poem for the students to say. And they weren't able to repeat it. Because you know, when you're in primary school, teachers say things and you repeat. The children weren't able to repeat it, and I had to call it to my teacher's attention, and I said, no man, this is more than eyes and ears not working.
Yes.
And if that is an issue, then when we brought in the specialists, scores of children needed classes.
Wow.
Scores.
Look at that. Look at that. Gentlemen, unfortunately, I'm at the end. What I would say is a friend of mine, gentlemen, who now works as a risk analyst at the Inter-American Development Bank. She says when she was in primary school, she was with the slow class because she says she couldn't see anything on the board. And she says, you remember the old fisheye clinic, the Cuban doctors, they gave her a pair of glasses thick like so. She says when she put on that glasses, her life changed because she was seeing everything now, and she was just felt confident. That changed her life. And there are many children in the system, gentlemen, who are struggling with those issues, undiagnosed, and are then incapable of giving off their best in the classroom. So I'll commit that one to the policymakers to see a way where they can afford, where more parents can afford to give the children the right medical, so the diagnosis is thorough, so both of you can know what kind of material you're working with, so you can know what kind of intervention